Jungs, was haltet ihr von der Mucke? 1A Sound, oder? Ja, kann man aufstehen, ne? Ich bin gerade ein bisschen eine Anekdote, wo wir gerade beim Thema sind. Ich wurde letztes Mal gesichtet irgendwie, so vor 2 Monaten, auf dem Kies immer um 4. Splitternackt, nur in Unterhose, bloße Perücke, Stöckelschuhe, 2 Weiber im Arm. Also, ne, und wenn dann wichtig und so, ne? Also bei allem so, egal was, alles was schwindelig macht, finde ich, naja auch geil. Aber das war so eine Situation, die hat mir doch wirklich sehr zu denken gegeben.
Győző! Super, megy. Hi everyone, good morning. I'm very glad you came. So there are still a lot of people outside, and I was like, I hate when people are late from meetings. So it's like, let's surprise you with something. If you are here, then some of you might have a green post-it below your chair. So please stand up and check if you have a green post-it below your chair. If you don't have one, but you have an empty seat next to you and there is one, just get it. So those of you who have a green post-it won a shirt or a book which you can choose from the front desk in the next break. And I want to do a counting because there is 40 of these post-its, and I want to make sure that we have it. So I'm going to come down so I can see you. Can you just show it up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. I think we have it. All right. Yeah, so in the next break, just go to the front desk where you get your badge, and then you can choose from a book or a shirt which you like. We have several books, some of them Hungarian, some of them English, so I hope you like them. And I have to say a thank you for our sponsors for it, because without them you wouldn't have these gifts. So thank you for Apple, Morgan Stanley, and Nokia. And the two organizer parties who are organizing this conference is Prezi and IBM Budapest Lab. We spent plenty of time organizing this thing, and we spent more than a year to get this together. So I hope you like it. Let's watch some sponsor videos before we go further, and I'm going to come back later. So, when I prepare for these opening speeches, there's always a time when I just hate it. I hate it all. And yesterday, I was talking with Köves Bálint from Ericsson, who is one of the experts of this conference. He's getting together all the speakers, and we have many more, but he was telling me that maybe I should just concentrate on one thing, that I should enjoy being here, talking to you, and sharing stuff. And I was thinking, okay, what do I enjoy the most about leadership and leading my team? Oh, by the way, I'm Adam Borsch, head of conferences at Prezi. And so what I enjoy the most is leading, that doing it with a team and doing the one-on-ones when I just can check on them and see how they are. And just, that's the time when you see if something is going to go haywire and somehow solve it. So I was thinking I'm going to do a one-on-one. And I'm not going to do the one-on-one with you because I know that attendee participation is very, very risky. But I'm going to do with them. So team, please come up to the stage. And we're going to do a 1-on-5, I think. Here. Just sit down. That's a comfy feeling. There's another mic for the other end. So this is András. He's responsible for the sponsorships. This is Agi. He is the event designer. He made this thing beautiful for us. This is Dorina, a communication specialist, and she's also one of the curators who invited the speakers. Oh, and András too. And this is Fanny. She is responsible for the speakers and the travel. And there's Barna, who is the old Fanny. And he is very unhappy about it, because yesterday we had the speaker dinner, and the speakers were like, oh, who are you? So my first question is, how are you from 1 to 10?
From 1 to 10? From 1 to 10.
Okay,
I feel really successful. I feel 10.
okay.
A solid 8 because I'm nervous but excited.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm a 7 for being on the stage.
Yeah, that could be a word.
I'm 8 because I'm also very nervous, but I'm pretty excited for today.
Okay, André?
I'm 8 as well, and see how this day goes.
I think we should switch, because it will be easier for the mic.
Yeah, sure.
So this is what I do, micro-controlling, all the time. They love it. So, let's see. Barna, what is the most valuable feedback you can get?
Sometimes I tend to be quite uncertain about what I do, if I do it well. So I really like when I get the feedback that you are doing this well, or if I can get concrete things that you shouldn't have done that, for example, and how should you do it differently?
Agi, you have been working for us for how many years now?
I did the first stretch as well, so I think it's 7 years.
Or 8?
8. It could be 8, yes.
So if you can remember the first time you did it,
Yeah.
and this time,
Yes.
how did you improve, or how you got better?
Well, it was a lot of changing in the last couple of years, because at the beginning I was doing only just the decoration, and then I became to be like more responsible for all the creatives. So I think my improvement was mainly with the online stuff, like all the stuff, being responsible for all the things you're wearing, you see on the website, you see on Facebook. So I think like professionally that was the biggest improvement. And being a professional and being a woman in this team, it's like more not to be scared too much from the from the scary stuff, because it could be really scary, and trust with all the people who I'm working with, and being a stable team. So it's really good. I like it. And really well organized. So I really feel that seeing the last 6 years, I feel that in the last 2 years we were really, really well organized and stable as a team. This was it.
Dorina, is there anyone at Prezi who is like a role model to you?
A role model?
Yeah. You know, like these questions are not written. They get it right now.
Actually, in all these situations, it's half an hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
So excuse us, please. I really like our team as a role model because we're... Agi is young too. But we all have so many responsibilities. And I've been thinking if I would do this work or job that I'm doing right now, if it wasn't in Prezi.
Like this situation, did you expect that you're going to be on stage 3 weeks ago?
No, not at all. But now I'm not even feeling nervous, and I feel safe. And it's been wonderful 2 weeks, and I expected something very nice from working with you, but now it's even better, and I feel like I've found something that it's really cherishable, and I love it. It's a great experience.
Andris, you are sweating, aren't you?
Maybe.
So most of the one-on-ones, I'm just asking random questions sometimes, and I just feel like that I'm looking for an answer when I really know. So
Just doing it for 30 minutes straight.
yeah, or 45. So you know, you make lots of un-PC jokes at the office, and you're a cis hetero male. So what I wanted to ask from you is like, why diversity at work matters for you?
This is another question. Come on.
I know.
Diversity at work,
Yeah,
not at the conference, but at work in general.
at work.
Well, it's more it sounds more terrifying, the question, than it is, I guess, because whenever you see that people are in a situation because of the color of their skin or their gender or their sexual orientation, it's very unfair to treat them differently if they have the same skill sets or the capabilities to do things. So the reason I'm making these un-PC jokes is because I don't think there is any difference if you are not heterosexual, you're a woman. I don't want to make any difference, so I can, yeah.
It's just
Okay,
the
you
right
will
thing to do about the
So-
climate crisis. It's the general workplace, like not even related to any of the big companies who are mostly responsible for it.
I think first thing is to be aware of the situation, of course. And if a leader has the capabilities and the resources to make things on their own, to help create a more sustainable workplace, for example, with recycling, trash bins, it's just the easiest, most little steps, but they matter. And the second is to empower the other employees who are also passionate about this topic, and if they have their own ideas, a good leader should be able to make their employees' ideas become a real thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now,
I think.
no, I have another question
Oh,
for you.
but I have a good answer for that. I think.
So, what does playing Mario Kart at the office means to you? So we
yeah,
have a
we-
Nintendo Switch at the office.
Yeah.
At one of the conferences, we had it
On the screen.
projected to the screen, and attendees could play in the large screen Mario Kart. So we have that Switch now at the office, and they can usually play at once a week at least.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Sorry, Agi. So what I really like in Prezi is the culture, because I think this is part of this team's culture, like that we are playing this, and also during lunch we on every Monday we ask each other how was your weekend, and we can't skip this. So that's like written in rock. So and
Drink a meatless Monday.
yeah.
Drink a meatless Monday.
Yeah. So I really like the culture, and for me, playing Mario Kart is part of this team's culture, the tradition.
Funny, how crazy was this culture for you weeks ago?
How crazy?
For funny.
First, I was surprised, but then I was like, okay, I'm cool with it. I want to join this, and I want to continue doing it. And I can't wait every week to play Mario Kart with the guys and then be the last one, because I really suck at it. But it's really great because I really feel like I'm part of the team and part of this culture, which is really, really nice.
Aggie, the last question is for you. Yeah, because it's again about Mario Kart, because you hate playing it.
I hate it. I know. I'm another generation. I'm 10 years older than you are.
But yeah, but Does it feel like that we are not want to include you in the team somehow?
No, I don't feel that. I'm happy that you feel good together. I expected that I'm not enjoying that much, and I don't have any passion to try it out. I'm sorry. I'm not that kind of video game girl, you know? But I'm really happy that you enjoyed it. And it's really next to my office, because we have a super small office in Prezi, and we put the Mario Kart inside, and my office is next to it. And I can hear everything, and it's really cool. They are really, really, really excited all the time, and they are cursing a lot. But it's really good. I love it, yes.
Do you have a question for me?
Adam, why do you think that all the opening, it's not good when you can manage things like this?
Like a 105 on stage?
No, this one, what we have here. And you started your speech that you think that
Yeah,
all
because
your openings are
I
not good.
told you that I wanted to do something like stand-up comedy, and Jürgen Appada was included in the speech, and I was like, okay, maybe that's not a good idea because he might be offended. And you know, you're going to meet one of the MCs, and I was talking to her yesterday, and we went through the whole speech, and I just got uncertain at all. And then I talked with Balint, I was like, okay, I really want to enjoy it. And I always enjoy it with you. Mm-hmm. There was one time at Prezi in summer when we did a 1-on-3, when Tade was leaving, and you were so uncertain what's coming next. And we were sitting next to the bistro. Do you remember that? Barna and Dorina?
So, yeah.
And for me, that's a very, very great memory. And I was like, I want to like put this memory on stage, and you know, for the attendees who are here to learn about more about leadership, it's one of the parts is that you have to learn a bit more about yourself, and then you can be a better leader. And I think you helped me a lot to learn about myself.
Can we start saying that our openings are really good? From
I think
now?
this is a good one.
I think we can start to say
But you had
this.
seen the feedback.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you. Thank you for you too, for listening.
So, there's a few important things I have to tell you too. So, emergency exits are all the doors you see. So, anytime you have an emergency, you have to do it. We have, and all of you have a badge. So please, you're going to have like half a minute now to check your badge. I'm not going to say anything, just get it up and check the pages. There's some information there. My phone number, for example, but you don't have to call me. Is it there? Yeah, it's there. Oh, Maida. Can I get the mic back for a minute? Can you come up? So this is the lady who hired me 5 years ago.
Thank you very much. But I think we should start because they don't interested about me and
No, I
us.
just want to ask one question.
Okay.
Did you expect 7 years ago that there's going to be a 7th track later?
I was very excited 7 years ago, but no. No, so it was like an experiment at Prezi. And basically, we were trying to invent the hot water. And after the conference, everybody was super excited and super happy. But no, we were not sure that it will go for 7 years. And yeah. And I was standing on this stage with Gergely Hodicska.
He's like playing with his phone now.
He was playing with his phone after the conference because he was also deeply part of it, right? Okay. I think we should start, okay?
We should, actually. So, Edina and Tegan, can you come up? So I'm not going to be your MC today because I'm not good at it, but this dynamic duo we have here is the
Good morning, hi. Good morning, everyone. Hello.
So, are you excited?
No. I mean, are you kidding? Why would we be? This is just a cool conference. Why would we be excited? Very psyched.
I have a very high bar for excitement.
Can you imagine at one point in your life that you're going to be a leader? Or you already are a leader somehow?
We are in so many ways.
I think everyone is a leader in their own way.
Okay, I'm going to get you to it because you are leading this conference now, and I'm giving you the stuff to do it.
Thank you, Adam. Bye.
Bye.
Well, hello, everybody. We are going to be super brief. Thank you so much for being here. We are super happy to see you. Let me just introduce you, Tegan Nekpandi. She is going to be the MC of today. And let me just tell about her that she's a legend at Prezi. And when it comes to leadership, I trust the woman with 4 kids under 6.
Thank you, Adina. And allow me to introduce Adina Nemet. At Prezi, she is the assistant to the CEO. That's assistant to the CEO, not assistant CEO like Dwight Schrute.
Just so you know.
Yeah, be clear. And being an assistant to the CEO, Adina has a great view of leadership, nice and up close, in the nitty-gritty, and yet not so much pain, right?
Exactly. We are in a beautiful building you must have recognized. Above us there's the Theater and Film University, so the drama is happening 1 floor above. We are going to keep it to them today.
Yeah, and this building, some numbers for the conference, was built in the 1880s, first used as a cinema in 1890, and this is the 7th stretch. We have 450 attendees, 10 volunteers, 2 conference days, and 2 MCs.
And we love numbers.
And can you give me the most exciting number of all?
Oh, please.
Will you tell it?
Okay. We, for the first time in the history of Stretch, have more female speakers than male ones. We are super proud to announce that.
Yeah. No applause? Applause. Yes, applause. And that's not including me and Adina.
No, we don't count in that matter. Okay.
So before we get going, we want to make a note about Slido. Now, some of you who've been at Prezi conferences before, or conferences in Budapest before, are probably familiar with it. But if you don't know, you can get it as the app on your phone. It's Slido. Or you can go online. It's www.sli.do.com. And we really encourage everybody to join us. We've got a practice question up on the screen. So if you've got your computer or your phone out, we'd love for you to chime in. The Slido is great because during the talks, you can ask any questions that come up on your mind, and you can also rate the talks, which is really nice for the speakers. It's good for everybody to have performance feedback. In fact, I think there will be a talk on that subject. So please join us at Slido. The hashtag is #StretchCon. And if we have too many questions to get through in the 5 minutes, please find the speaker and ask them in person. They're here. They want to talk to you. That's why we're all here. So don't be shy. Have we got any? Yeah, and so we've got a word bubble here. So if you click that word that you feel is most true, and then it's going to get the biggest, and then it's going to win. And who doesn't love winning?
It looks really nice as well. And I believe that we are going to cover a lot of this in the upcoming 2 days.
I think so.
And also I believe, I think that you guys have been to conferences. Is there anyone whose first conference ever is this? Okay.
Welcome.
That's awesome, actually. And I think it is quite obvious that apart from all the knowledge that you get from the speakers, it is really awesome to actually get to know people. So we are inviting you to talk to at least one person today who you have not met before. And also, we are trying to make that happen for you because tonight, in the evening, we are going to have the greatest house party in this cinema. Because we are going to have a meetup on this stage, which you are all invited to, and at the same time, the EPAM Carnival party is happening outside. So it's going to be just like the best house parties you've ever been to. There's going to be the kitchen with all the alcohol and deep conversations, and there is going to be the place where the meaningful stuff is happening. So don't miss out on it. And now, I believe you are all super excited to meet your speakers. Tegan, the stage is yours.
So our first speaker today is going to be Jorgen Appello. He is the CEO at Happy Mellow, and he is going to be talking to us about how to fix your failed agile transactions. Everyone, please welcome Jorgen to the stage.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. Seriously, this is the most fascinating opening of any conference I have ever attended. For 2 reasons. First of all, I've never seen organizers being so vulnerable and open on stage at the start of a conference. That was very inspiring. And second, I never won something at the beginning. Woo! I can pick a book. I hope they have my book. Just kidding. So, whoops, I'll try to shout a little less loudly. I have something up my sleeve for you. I was running this morning. Yes, that's me. 5 kilometers. I feel very much awake at this point. And but that's not about me. This is my real opening slide. The books that some of you might have seen before, mentioned 3.0, that sort of made me famous and infamous in the Agile community. The role of the leader in the Agile world, Agile organizations. The second one, How to Change the World, is free. You can get it by just going to my website, subscribing to my newsletter, downloading the book, and then unsubscribing. It's easy, okay? Anyone can do that. It's very simple. And the last one on this slide, Managing for Happiness, about happier workplaces. But this is not about these books either. I want to talk about this picture. The amount of change in the music industry. I am so old that I remember what happened over there at the beginning, the 80s. That's my favorite era of music. With my Sony Walkman on the side, 13 songs on each side, and you had to take the cassette out. Oops, the tape got stuck. Use your pinky finger to get it back in. Maybe some of you remember that. And then CDs became big. I am a little bit proud of that because I'm from the Netherlands and Philips played a big role there in that technology. But then at some point in 1999, something happened. Does anyone remember what happened in 1999? Napster happened, yeah. Or more broadly speaking, illegal downloads of MP3s happened. Well, some experts say that the illegal downloads was by people who didn't buy CDs anyway, so there was no difference. But, well, you can see from the statistics of the revenues, things started collapsing right that moment. What a coincidence. So something was going on. And then a bit later, we got legal downloads, iTunes, and streaming, Spotify, Deezer, Pandora, all those platforms. So much change in the last couple of years. Well, there was not much change over there. For decades, we used vinyl for bringing music to other people. And that worries some CEOs and leaders and managers, of course. You see the adoption rates of new technologies keep increasing. It took decades for telephone and TV to be introduced, and now new technologies are introduced in a few months, and then many people are using them. And this idea of new technologies and new companies replacing existing ones, that leads me to discuss the innovator's dilemma, which is a concept popularized by Clayton Christensen, who sadly died a few weeks ago. One of the most famous gurus in the industry, I think. And he said, in many industries, the same thing happens again and again. You have the leaders, the incumbents in their industry, Sony, Universal, Warner, but then you have the disruptors as well, who start with products that are of lower quality, like downloading music from the internet that was low bit rate, and you had to wait for an hour to finish the download, and then it was the Portuguese version. Oh my God, had to start all over. But it was fun. It was something that the younger generations craved, a new way of consuming music. And then the quality started increasing of online music. And then the disruptors replaced the existing leaders, basically. So the innovator's dilemma is, how can we be both? How can we be the leaders in an industry and the disruptors at the same time? Because we don't want to be replaced, but we do understand we need to innovate. How can we execute our current business models, which means we need optimization, we need specialization, we need centralization. All of that is useful because we have to drive for profits. At the same time, we need to explore. We need a bit of chaos. We need a bit of experimentation. We want it both. We want, as the British say, we want our cake and eat it at the same time. We want to be in the European Union and out of it at the same time. It's a very British thing, to want it both. So, so that's the innovator's dilemma. how can we have a startup culture, but at the same time, we don't want to lose our scale-up culture. We want both, actually. And some people try. I have heard people talking about innovation committees. I was part of an innovation committee once. I was CIO of a company in Rotterdam, my hometown. There was a CTO, there was a marketing manager, and we were a committee of 3 or 4 people. And there was an idea box. And people submitted ideas to the idea box, and then once per month we got the idea box and we emptied the box, and there were 3 sticky notes or whatever in there, and we looked at the first idea and we said, that didn't make any sense. Next idea. That makes a lot of sense and cost €1 billion. We're not going to do that, sorry. Next one, we threw that away as well, and then oops, the box was empty. And then the employees were angry. You're rejecting all our ideas. And we said, you should submit better ideas. This is all crap. That didn't work. That led to some tension in the company. Some people have innovation centers or some companies. This was actually suggested by Clayton Christensen, who said, the best way of doing innovation is to create some kind of innovation center and put it far away from the head office. Not in the same building, not even in the same city, maybe in different countries, somewhere far away. So the main business cannot kill it. Otherwise, the immune system of corporate culture is going to kill every new initiative. So put it somewhere else. And that seems to work sometimes, but most of the time you hear the corporate office complaining about that fancy-looking office over there with their colorful walls and yoga mats and pillows, and there's nothing ever coming out of that innovation center, and we're paying for everything over there. So that leads to tension as well. And then some organizations have hackathons or innovation days or exploration days. An interesting concept. And there are some successes from hackathons, but quite a lot of times I hear people complaining that after the hackathon, nothing happens. Jurgen, we were very active and creative and innovative for 24 hours, and there were pizza everywhere, up to the walls. But after that, it was back to business as usual, and nothing happened with the ideas. Well, that's a shame. That's a 24 hours engagement exercise, but it has nothing to do with innovation then, basically, because if there are no results. And some try to contribute with frameworks and methods. Maybe you have seen some of these pictures before. Holacracy or Spotify model or scaled agile framework or whatnot. I'm not going to discuss any of them. They're full of good practices that they borrowed from many different places. I see them as toolboxes, useful toolboxes. And I created a tag cloud of all those frameworks and methods and everything. Lots of stuff that Agile and Lean is about. You can download it later. I'll give you the URL for that tag cloud. This is everything that Lean and Agile is, basically. But none of that solves the innovator's dilemma. Not a single framework or method helps you solve it. But I'm going to solve it this morning. Yep, I'm going to solve it this morning. In the next, 41 minutes, I'm going to solve the innovator's dilemma with you. Here we go. Let's look at some of the disruptive companies that we have in Europe, because we can be pretty proud of what we have in Europe. You always hear stories about Silicon Valley and the amazing companies they have there. Like, I heard the startup story of Airbnb like 17 times already. But in Europe, we have Booking.com, and Booking is 5 times bigger than Airbnb. And they're Dutch, so there you go, all right? Very proud of that. And we have Spotify and TransferWise and lots of cool companies. And I visited them and talked with agile coaches and HR people and CIOs. And one thing I noticed is nobody talks much about agile or lean. That's sort of default. That's total common sense. But what I did pick up was they talk about the typical life cycle stage of innovative ideas. There's a product life cycle, and all those businesses know where they are in those life cycle stages. I will show you. It usually starts with one person having an idea.
iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
You remember that? 1,000 songs in your pocket? I had just 25 songs in my pocket back then. So 1,000 songs was like, whoa, that's a lot. And nowadays, we have 1 billion songs in our pocket, and my daughter is like, Spotify doesn't have my favorite album. Spotify sucks. And I'm like, you spoiled little brat. Okay. Apparently, requirements have evolved over time. So someone has an idea. That's stage one, the under-the-shower moment or whatever of a founder or someone working at a company and saying, this would be a great thing to do. Then stage two is, I call it expedition, is figuring out if that idea is making sense. In the startup world, they call that problem-solution fit. Is the solution that I have in mind really solving somebody's problem? You would be amazed at how many innovators skip this step. I think this has been the main problem in the entire blockchain cryptocurrency world out there, where you had technical people falling in love with the technology, and they started coding right away, imagining all the problems they would be solving with blockchain and crypto coins. And the only ones interested in their projects were the cryptocurrency speculators and nobody else. So that was a bit of an issue, I think. So what can you do in stage two is you test, you validate if your idea is making sense before investing any money in it. You invest the least amount to validate that somebody wants your product. We call it minimal viable product fit of the low fidelity type. You're just faking it, basically. So for example, you want to open a coffee shop somewhere in a certain street. It doesn't make sense to just rent a space right away because you don't know if that's the right place to open the coffee bar. You should run a test. You could do a lean experiment, as we call it. So one lean experiment could be, well, the best location for a new coffee bar, that's my learning goal. As an assumption, I have that the best place is in side street. But I'm not sure. So as a test, I could sell coffee from a mobile coffee cart for a day. And when I sell fewer than 50 coffees on one day, I consider the test failed. Then there apparently is not enough throughput, not enough demand in that place. And I could go somewhere else and do the test again. I've lived in Brussels for 10 years. I know somebody actually doing this test with a mobile cart, and they were in various places in the city to see where they sold the most coffee. And then they ended up in a sweet spot between a student campus and a metro station. That was the best place to be, they found. So that's a great test to run before you invest in the coffee shop. So that's stage two. Now, suppose you validated problem-solution fit, you have the green light from potential customers. Now it's time to invest. You form a team, you need money, you go to angel investors and get seed capital when you're an external startup, or when you're an internal startup, you go to management, you ask for a budget, and you show them the evidence of problem-solution fit to solidify your case. And we sometimes call it vision founders fit. Do we have the right founders to complete, to enable this vision? And you could start playing with a lean canvas, for example, from this stage on. It's an adaptation of the business model canvas. We'll see in a moment. The lean canvas is specifically for startups. It says you should test your problem, you should test the solution, you should test your unique value proposition. For me, those canvases are just boxes full of tests that you should run as an innovator, as a leader of a small product team. And then one of the most difficult stages is stage 4. It is called product market fit, a very famous term in the startup scene. Can you now make a product that people actually want to use? I know from personal experience that it is relatively easy to get a false positive in the early stage, where people say, oh, I love your idea, I'm signing up right now, you make that product and I'm going to buy it. And then when you make a product, they're like, they suddenly have more important things to do. So annoying. So making something that people actually want to use is extremely difficult. And then again, you have minimal viable products here, but of the high fidelity type. You actually have a product, but as simple as possible, and you try to sell it. You try to actually use it, or have customers use that product. And oh, by the way, and this is one of the first picture I could find of the iPod of Steve Jobs. Of course, they did all the testing internally. Steve Jobs was the proxy for the market because he was one of the rare people in the world who actually knew what customers needed. So he did the testing with the products. And I heard one story where the product team came with the next version of the iPod to Steve, and he said, "No, it's still too big." And they were like, "No, this is as thin as we can make it," because they knew how important it was for him to have things small and thin. So "No, this is as small as we can make it." He said, "I don't believe it." "No, truly." Well, he said, "Let's see." So he took the prototype and walked to an aquarium, and then he dropped the prototype in the aquarium. And then bubbles came out. He said, "Look, there's air in there. Get it out." Super, that's a fascinating test. Just throw your MVP in the water. Let's see if bubbles come out. And now there are AirPods. Isn't that amazing? Everything comes full circle at Apple. Anyways, so that's the minimal viable product in stage 4. Very hard to get customers to actually use your product. But suppose that works. Suppose you're able to do this, to pull this off. You now have something that people love. They enjoy using it. They want more. They recommend it to their friends. Are you now ready to scale up? No. One of the most dangerous things I have learned in all my conversations and reading is scaling up too soon. Many startups die because they're not ready for that next stage. There's a stage in between that's stabilizing everything. If you did everything well, you faked all you have in the back office because you only focused on the customer. Can we get the customer to use a product? The back end is a nightmare. You have technical debt going through the roof. Nothing is integrated. Everything is done manually. The team is going nuts with all the things that have to be done manually in the back end. Doesn't matter. You're just testing if customers want to use the product. Now is the time to fix the rest of the company, right? Now, before you try to take off with a plane that is half finished, basically. So we can call this business market fit. Is your entire business now ready to conquer the market? Probably not. And there's another thing that many founders don't realize is in those early stages, you work with the innovators and early adopters among customers. They like new ideas. They like new products. They don't mind if there are a couple of bugs in there. In fact, some of them are proud when they're the first ones to find a bug. And they're like, "Whoa, I found this. When you push this button that way, then this happens. That's so amazing. It's total crap, and I'm going to report it." And then I'm like, I earn a badge for being the first one to find it. But then when you move to the next group of customers, there's the early majority. They don't want to see bugs in a product that they think should be finished. When they find a bug, they don't report it to you. They report it to all their friends on Facebook and Insta. I am usually in that group. Never an innovator, always early majority. Yeah. So fix your customer service, fix your quality control, etc. That can easily take another 3 years, one of the investors told me, just to be ready to scale up. And you can discuss the business model canvas, which is the more adult version of the lean canvas, you could say, because now you have other boxes, such as key partnerships. Who wants to partner with you? In the early stage, when you have a product that is unproven, it makes no sense to discuss partnerships, because who is interested in partnering with you as long as your product doesn't work, right? So it makes sense to ignore that. But from now on, you can discuss that box and run tests again. And then acceleration, the next stage. Now you're growing up. By the way, the pictures that you see are of my mother growing up. She's very proud to be in my presentation. She spent a whole weekend going through all her photo albums, finding the best photos of each of her life cycle stages. So she's always watching with us. And you can see from the look in her eyes, as a teenager, she discovered new possibilities. Things she never knew about as a kid. Don't we all remember that phase? So yeah, it's the same for a product or a service or a business model growing up. Now everything changes. Now you become an adult, basically. And I learned, for example, that from this point, growth hacking makes a lot of sense. I spent money sending my team to a growth hacking course, and that was a complete waste of time in hindsight, because we were in stage 4, product market fit. And growth hacking is about endlessly tweaking all the messages, the buttons, the colors, the features to optimize conversion rates. Basically, it is trying to multiply something by 1,000. But if you're still in product market fit, you have something that doesn't work yet. Multiplying 0 by 1,000 makes no sense. You still have nothing, right? So that was one of my learning moments. We did growth hacking too early. And I have some other examples of things done in wrong stages. So stage 7 is crystallization. Now you rule, basically. You're the leader in the market. This is the first stage where you have to be profitable. Tesla has just moved on to stage 7. Spotify just moved on to stage 7. They're now profitable since 2 or 3 quarters. Stage 8 is expansion. Midlife crisis, when you dress in colorful clothes. Trying to stay hip and trendy and young. When a product appears in 17 different colors, you know the end is in sight, basically. They ran out of ideas. What else can we do with our products? We want to stay young. Let's make a pink version. Why not the entire rainbow? Great idea. That's midlife crisis of a product, basically. And then stage 9, conservation. Everything is downhill now. It's not working well. People are moving away. The product is slow. But you keep it around. You don't want to kill it yet. You just keep it around. Maybe it's just costing you money in this stage. And then stage 10 is, okay, let's just admit it's over. We finish it. We wrap it up. We make it a project and done. No more customer service. And that is a typical life cycle of any product or service, any business model. Sometimes it takes a few years, like I was at Rovio in Helsinki, the makers of Angry Birds. It takes just a few years for a game to go through all these stages. But then in another industry, the insurance industry perhaps, it could take 100 years for a new product to be developed and grow up and die. But it's always the same thing. In the beginning, you explore and you try to figure out what is the right thing to do. And then steadily over your life cycle stages, you switch to execution, and then you do that thing right with good quality, fast, good profits, low costs, exactly. The same curve again and again. And this is the curve of the iPod you can see here. Product market fit stage was around here. Stage 5, stabilization. 6, scaling up. Stage 7, yay, we're profitable and making lots of money. Stage 8, oh my God, what are we going to do? Let's make a pink version. And then 9, 10, dead. Anyone still has an iPod here in the audience? Over there, the last one in Hungary. Woo! Awesome. Keep it. It's a lot of money now, probably. So what I learned, as I said just earlier, different rules apply to different life cycle stages. That's important. Here's a picture of us when we were young, my family and I. Look at the fancy pants that I wore when I was 9 years old. Yeah, I started the whole trend in the world with these kinds of pants. This is my little brother. You can see from the look in his eyes, he was planning something devious again. He was always like that, my little brother, always mischief that he was into. And I remember he complained to my mother that he thought it was unfair that I was allowed to come home anytime I wanted, but he had to be home at 6. It was not fair, he said to Mom. It's not fair. Jurgen can come home at 11, but I have to be at home at 6. So unfair. Well, first of all, my mother said to him, Jurgen is 3 years older. He's in a different life cycle stage, almost a teenager. You're not. Different rules. All parents understand this concept. And then second, maybe you can get the same rules as he has if at least for a year I don't have to pick you up from the police station anymore. Oh, my little brother. Oh, we have stories. He's all good now. He's all fine. That's why I can share these stories. I love my brother. But wow, we have such amazing family story. An example. Objectives and key results, all the rage in the Agile world. I see them I mentioned everywhere at every Agile conference, basically, or leadership and management conference. I'm not going to explain what the objectives and key results are. They emerged at Intel, were used at Google, and then since then popularized. Fascinating goal-setting framework. You should look it up. One thing that I find interesting in my conversations with the startups and scale-ups and around Europe, I never heard anyone talk about OKRs. Not a single time. Everyone was talking about the North Star metric. The North Star metric is the one metric that rules them all. What is the one thing that our self-organizing team should optimize in product market fit stage or in stabilization stage? And the rest is all secondary. Maybe also important, but one thing should rule them all. It could be we focus on monthly recurring revenue. It could be we focus on total order size per customer. It doesn't matter. Pick one thing. The benefit of that is it keeps it super simple, laser focused for a team. There are, of course, side effects, of course. You might forget about other things that are important as well, so you need a bit of a balance. But then I thought, if startups always talk about the North Star metric, or the one metric that matters, as Ash Maurya calls them, maybe we can do both. Maybe it makes sense that the young ones do North Star metric when they're still growing up. They need something simple that works for them, that's easy to learn, so they have laser focus. But once they grow up, as a family, as a company, we're going to expect them to implement OKRs, because that's what the adults do. It takes more time, it is more complicated, it takes more iterations to learn, but it's much more advanced. Why should we have one rule for the entire company? That makes no sense. It's as if everyone in the whole family has the same bedtime hours. That's ridiculous, right? The kids are not the same as the grandparents. The teenagers are not the same as the young adults. We need different rules for different products and services depending on where they are. So don't treat everyone the same with one big framework or method. It should depend. Different ages need different practices. So that's the first key to solving the innovator's dilemma. It is making sure that your practices depend on the business lifecycle stage, on the maturity of your idea, not the maturity of the team. That's something completely different, okay? You could have a highly mature team working on a very immature product idea. That's the best combination I can think of. Yeah. You could also have a very immature team working on a mature product. I'm sure many coaches in the room know lots of those teams. So, business model maturity, that you need to account for when you advise practices. It depends on how old the idea is, basically. Okay, second key that we're going to discuss. Maybe some of you know this picture, design thinking picture from IDEO and the design school, Stanford Design School, D-School in the US. Very popular picture, you see it everywhere. There's another design thinking picture that is popularized in the UK from the Design Council. Looks different, but they mean the same thing, basically. It starts by empathizing with your customers, and then there are a number of other things to do until you have a product release. I love all the design thinking stuff. I love talking with design thinkers, and I read the books and everything. There's just one thing that annoys me, and that's this picture. Does anyone know why I am annoyed by this picture? Can you guess? Sorry? The test is too late. Yeah, more generic. No loop. Right, where's the loop? Where's the iteration? Where's the circle? Where's the iterative aspect? Design thinkers talk about it all the time. If you talk with real design thinkers, they say it is circular, it is iterative, incremental. We do everything basically all the time. But then somebody tried to turn that into a picture, and they made it something that looks suspiciously like a waterfall project. Like, okay, let's do empathizing in March, and then we can do defining early April, hopefully end with ideation before May, and then we can prototype in June and test before the summer. We have waterfall again, right? Thanks to misunderstanding of what design thinking should be. It should be iterative. Same with this picture. I like this one by the Lean Startup. It has a circle. Woohoo, what an innovative idea. It goes round in circles, but there's something missing here, in my opinion. Anyone care to guess? Build, measure, learn. What is missing? Think? Yeah? Sorry? I didn't hear it. Yeah. Well, what I find missing here is the whole empathizing part. Where's the customer? Where do the ideas come from? Build what? Do the ideas come falling out of the sky? So what I do, and that is what I am famous for, I sort of merge ideas from different sources, like my mojito method, basically use ingredients that already exist and then mix them up a little bit, and then I have something that's better. So, because we have the design thinking models here, they use different words, but they mean the same thing. Lean Startup over here. What I appreciate of Lean Startup is they make a distinctive mention of learn. We learn from our tests, or we learn from our measurement. That makes sense. I appreciate that specific reminder that design thinking models don't have. They mean it, it's in the books, but they don't have it as a step. And all of them are missing something that design thinkers call framing, or that I call contextualize. Empathize with whom? There are nearly 8 billion people on the planet. I cannot empathize with everyone. I have difficulty empathizing with just my partner, let alone the rest of the world. Yeah. So we need to narrow our scope. We need to focus on something, say, well, this is what I want to empathize with, and the rest of the universe I leave to other people. I can only solve one problem at a time. So I made it into a circle. I made it colorful because I'm in midlife crisis, so I have to use lots of colors. And I looked for an alternative of the word circle, and then the dictionary gave me vortex, and I thought, yeah, I like the word vortex. It sounds dynamic, it sounds powerful, it sounds less boring. There are no individual discrete steps. No, it's a big mess of stuff that happens during the work. There's no logical order of anything. It's just everything is swirling into each other. That's how innovation is. It's a messy, non-linear process, basically, as long as you cover the entire vortex. I'll give some examples. You do hackathons, good for you, but ethnographic research is better, okay? That means going out, getting out of the building, as the Lean Startup say. Get out of the office, go to where people are using your product and just watch them. Don't ask what they want because they don't know. They don't even realize what their needs are. Just observe, make notes, use cameras and whatever, and then discuss all that when you get back. That's ethnographic research, the researcher becoming part of the environment that they research. That's effectively, that's the best indicator of innovation if you do that. Second, come back with and create empathy maps. This is a picture that I took of my team a couple of months ago. We had lots of input from customer interviews, but also from observations, and we just throw it all at a wall and then try to empathize with our intended audience. What is it that they see? What is it that they feel? What is it that they talk about? Really understand the position that they were in order to uncover the problems and the needs that they were facing. And once you've done that, you could create a lean persona. You turn all those insights into a description of the archetypical user, the typical customer. The customer doesn't really exist, but you create sort of a story around that person. For example, our typical user would be Mark, 34 years old, lives in Amsterdam, loves specialty stores and loves coffee, but he cannot find coffee on the way to work. Most coffee is bad. So we now have a picture of a person that has a problem and that we could create a solution for. And it turns out when you create such a lean persona, a story, it is much easier for product teams to relate to a lean persona, to a prototype story, than to statistical information about target audiences. That's not very, very useful. And then try to narrow it down to the one job to be done. What is the job to be done for Mark? That is often not what people say that they think their job is. For example, if you ask me what I like, I'm often talking about coffee. Maybe some of you noticed on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And when you ask me what I want the best coffee. I just want the best coffee in Budapest or wherever I am. But if you look what I'm actually doing, you might see me walk into a Starbucks instead of a highly rated barista shop or whatever next to it. Why? Because at Starbucks, I can sit. At Starbucks, they have Wi-Fi. At Starbucks, I'm not being chased away for sitting there with my computer for 2 hours. And some of the barista joints don't want that because they have only a few seats or something. So I prefer the coffee, but the entire job to be done is coffee plus Wi-Fi plus a comfortable place to do my work for 2 hours. That is the entire job. And that is what you maybe only know when you observe somebody's behavior instead of just asking what they want, because they don't realize that themselves. So, where does all that sit in the vortex? Well, all of that is on this side, of course. Framing, discovering, defining, ideating, coming up with ideas, all of that on that side of the vortex. I have another example. This is journey mapping. I did that with my team a while ago as well. You now turn your ideas about your products and the experiences that people have with your product into a picture. Do people have the experiences that I want them to have? Do they have wow moments or do they have what the moments? We want to know. We only know when we observe them, when we have cameras or we browse through the logs of customer service or whatever. We need to understand what is really happening. What are the moments of truth, as they call that in service design? I'll give you an example. As you may have noticed, I like coffee. So, in any strange city, as I did yesterday night here in Budapest, I open up Google Maps, I type coffee, open now, sort by distance, highest rated, and then I walk to the nearest one that mentions barista self-ground coffee or that has super fancy pictures of latte art or whatever. All right, that's where I go. I walk. Yesterday it was just 2 minutes, but sometimes it can take 20 or 25 minutes. Nice walk in the city center. I come to the coffee bar. There's no coffee bar. What the... Somebody did not take care of their address details on Google Maps. How hard can it be? That's the first what the F moment. Sorry, you lost me as a customer because I have no idea where you are. I'll go to the second one. I walk, closed for the holidays. Okay, next one, Starbucks. Anything is fine, just give me coffee. I really want my coffee now. So I go there, 5 minutes. I'm at a fancy place. Nice espresso machine, comfortable chairs. I see people working there with computers. Oh, this looks like heaven. This looks like my kind of place. They seem to have Wi-Fi and everything. So I order my cafe latte, and I get a latte fucking macchiato. What the... Okay, so here's a very important moment in the presentation, okay? Education. There we go. On that side, we have the latte macchiato. Okay? It is an Italian invention. It is invented by Italians. They call it stained milk, the latte macchiato. That is the stain that the espresso makes when you throw it in after the milk, right? The milk comes in a glass, usually, and this is how Italians teach babies how to drink coffee, basically. Over there, we have the cafe latte. It is an American invention, because the Americans were used to drinking brown water. And then when the espressos and cappuccinos were introduced, the Americans said, oh, that's strong stuff. So they made the cups bigger, they threw in more milk, and then you have the milkier coffee, the cafe latte, which is how Italians taught Americans how to drink coffee. The problem is the cafe latte now got introduced to Europe, the latte macchiato is moving up north, and it is a big mess in the entire continent. I had the same problem in Budapest yesterday night. I kid you not. I got a latte macchiato. I ordered a cafe latte. So sometimes I'd say to the barista, that's a latte macchiato. That's not a cafe latte. And then the barista says, that's the same thing. And then I tell the barista, well, if that's the same thing, then the barista is the same thing as a plumber, okay? You obviously don't care about the order of the fluids, which is rather relevant to me. So, lesson learned, coffee with milk is not milk with coffee. Okay, let that be a takeaway. Thank you so much. So where does this, this is understanding this journey mapping, right? Understanding the wow moments and what the F moments. You can turn it into a wow moment by really understanding what a cafe latte is and creating latte art. That's Instagrammable latte art. That's an opportunity for a wow moment. Teach your barista how to make latte art. So all of that sits here, sensitizing and systematizing, testing and learning from what happens with your product. I created a self-assessment exercise of the innovation vortex. It's a funny exercise where you can use in a retrospective just to test how innovative you are. Do we have practices that cover the entire vortex? Are we doing all of it, basically? I'll give you the URL at the end so you can download it. So what we have over here is exploration, disruptive innovation. Over there we have execution, then the innovation becomes more sustaining, but there's that I was trying to predict, together with my colleagues, which of the ideas in the idea box would be the winning idea. Impossible. You cannot do that. I have a nice explanation by Robert Cooper, the inventor of the stage gate model. He explains it like this.
The first thing to remember is it's a bit like playing poker. When you sit down at the poker table and you start betting, you don't put all your money on the table. You put maybe $2 or €2, and you get a few cards. And then you bet a little bit more money, and you get a few more cards and more information. In other words, new product projects, you never bet all the money at the beginning. It's a stepwise process. It's an incremental commitment. As you learn more, you bet more.
That's crucial. With new product development, with innovative products, you never bet all the money in the beginning. You would be insane if you did that, because you have no information. You have to buy information with minimal viable products, learn. With just the smallest amount of money, how much can you learn? And then when you learn when something makes sense or when something didn't make sense, it should go to the next stage, and then the budgets get bigger. This is how the entire startup ecosystem works, where the startups go through various stages: self-funded, angel-funded, VC-funded, institutional investors. The further they get, the bigger the budgets become, but they leave many competitors behind who are unable to prove their assumptions. So I was treating it as a pipeline of innovation, but that was wrong. It is a funnel. Lots of ideas start at the beginning and only a few remain. Robert Cooper says in his work, he measured it, that it is an attrition rate from 60 to 1. That means 60 ideas in the idea box, one is going to be a winning, profitable product. Now you try to predict which one. You can't. It's impossible. So you can also draw it like this, as a mountain that you're climbing together, or as levels in a game. Game of Thrones, same thing. First season, lots of families vying for the Iron Throne, and season by season, more and more are killed off. And the budgets get bigger and bigger, the stakes get higher the further they get, with fewer and fewer candidates remaining. I have another metaphor, this one.
Come on! Upside, inside out. She's living la vida loca. She'll push and pull you down.
It sounded like 2 3-year-olds who've got flu trying to sing.
I love Simon Cowell's insults. He's so much better at it than I am. But this is like Innovation Committee 3.0. They have no idea who is going to win at the end. They don't have to predict at the start when they have 10,000 candidates. They say, just show what you can do, and after the first round, we're going to kill half of you. And the other half, you move on to the next stage, and the budgets get bigger, and you get more time, and then you do it again, and you get, the further you get, the better you become, with coaches and everything. And by the time you get to the end, just a few are remaining. You just know for sure that they will be really, really good. It's just impossible to predict which ones those will be. So, the third key to solving the innovator's dilemma is to create some kind of innovation funnel. What is the great game of business that you're playing as a company? It is not enough to just have a hackathon. When after the hackathon nobody knows what is the next stage for the ideas, then you might as well not organize a hackathon. You should somehow have a defined stage-by-stage approach, like the startup world works. Like, okay, the best ideas from the hackathon, they get this budget in the next stage, and then those will have to compete with each other for the next stage, and the budgets get even bigger. And the company has to set aside money for that innovation fund. How much is the company investing in that for real? So, how can we have a startup culture, but we don't want to lose our scale-up culture? That's how I started. Well, I'm still working on this picture. I apologize for it looking complicated, okay? I'm still improving it. But the concepts are all there. We have an innovation funnel. I like drawing it bottom up because it's like a game that we play with levels to achieve, and more are killed off. In the beginning, you have a few entrepreneurs, a few founders, a few employees with innovative ideas, but the further they get, the bigger the teams become, and by the time they're here, they should be profitable products. But only a few remain out of the many, many, many that will start here. The company needs to define somehow this, how this works. And over here, here, you have the innovation committees. They decide who gets to pass, who gets the green light, who gets the red light. That's how people play poker. That's how investors treat startups. And the innovation vortex is always spinning, always. Only you focus on exploration more here, and over there you focus more on execution. But innovation never stops. It's just the nature of it changes over time. Like the way you learn as a human being changes from when you were a baby until the day you die, but you're always learning somehow. It's just the kind of learning adapts. So, what about all those frameworks and methods and tools? I love them for what they contribute. Lots of good toolboxes with good ideas, but none of them solve the innovator's dilemma. And I'm trying to figure out how to move beyond that. How can we adapt those ideas? Because we need to introduce those concepts of life cycle stages. I'm not having any original ideas here. Everything is already out there. It's just dispersed in lots of different books and sources. 3 of my favorite ones are Eric Ries, The Startup Way, Robert Cooper's book, Winning in New Products, and Esther Hans and Tendai Vicky, The Corporate Startup. Lots of cool stuff there, but they all have like pieces of the puzzle, and I'm trying to glue them together to see the whole picture. A product like an organism. An organization is like a species, and the whole economy is like a biosphere where all those organizations compete and collaborate. But remember that the organization is not just one product. It should be a family of products that start up, scale up, and screw up at some point. So the only way to be disrupted, and not to be disrupted, I mean, is to disrupt yourself, like Apple does and many similar companies out there. So go forth and make more babies, startups, I mean, sorry. And for those in the audience, I have a special offer of the book, my Startup Scale Up Screw Up book. Take a picture of the QR code if you want 25% discount for anyone who wants to have a copy. And I will sell you a sticker with your name, send you a sticker with your name on it as well, so it will be signed. And if you want to have these downloads, the Vortex or the Tag Cloud or whatever, I have a bunch of downloads. Take a picture of this QR code, this URL, you sign up to the program because I'm trying to solve this problem with other people. How can we adapt those frameworks and methods to introduce a life cycle thinking and solving the innovator's dilemma? So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you're going to enjoy 2 wonderful days and win lots of free books with green sticky notes. So, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. In the name of all Budapest baristas, I just would like to apologize for your experience with cafe latte.
Oh yeah, that was.
I saw that was deep.
That was a traumatic experience.
I could see that.
Yes.
We are just so sorry in the name of Budapest, really. Prezi has a barista, so if you visit us, we are happy to have your back on that.
A real cafe latte.
Let's see the questions, actually. Okay. I love that it popped up who the person in black and white was, but now it's up because you answered that question. And I think the most important that came up, what as a leader can I do to help innovation?
Mm-hmm. Well, I gave you the 3 keys. I think you should start with thinking about that process. What kind of stages are we going to define? Because just organizing a hackathon and not thinking about what happens after, I think that's a rather useless exercise. You will demotivate people if there is only a hackathon and then nothing else. It's a nice starting point. Actually, a better starting point was kicking people out of the office and tell them you're going to do some ethnographic research. Just watch what customers experience, what their behaviors is. But yeah, define those stages of investment and set aside money, because without money, without budgets for innovation, nothing's going to happen.
And can you give us a real-life example on a successfully working innovation center?
Oh, well, I am not working at innovation centers myself. The books that I mentioned are full of examples at General Electric or Procter & Gamble. Eric Ries has great examples in his book. Tendai Viki has great examples of his book. I have my own companies to worry about. So that's hard enough already to get them up and running and surviving. So yeah, I suggest to check out those books. Yeah.
And how can you tell the actual stage of the product in that 10 scale?
Good question. I have one of the downloads is a list of questions that I offer to people, because like with human life cycle stages, it's not a binary decision. Like, it's not like you become a teenager from one day to the other. Right. It's a gradual aspect. And I could even say, when I was 15 years old, in some ways I was a teenager, in a few ways I was still a kid, and in a few ways I was an adult. And it's the same for products and services. Like, most of the product is probably in this stage, but they show some sign of being a bit ahead, and they show some sign of being still there. Some questions to ask is, are you profitable or not? Do you have, what's the retention and churn of customers using your product? There are dozens of such questions to ask yourself. And then it's quite often pretty obvious where the main bulk of the product is in which life cycle stage. So I have a download for that for those interested.
And I believe the next question is also going to be a little bit about, like, when do you know when to scale up? I believe that's a very complex thing to think about.
Yeah, it is. So I learned that usually the startups scale up too soon, rarely too late. So you have to worry about not doing it too fast, but you should not delay when, as soon as you can scale, you should, of course, because the problem is once you've figured out product market fit, you have proven that a product works, you will have competitors. Mm-hmm. Competitors see what is working, and then they're going to do same thing, only cheaper. Oh yeah. Because they did not have that entire history that you had to invest in. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to do things as fast as possible. But as I said, the plane has to be completed before you take off. I mean, maybe some things can still be a bit buggy, but the main thing has to work. Customer service needs to work, quality assurance needs to work. All those things in the back, integration with financial systems, the basics need to work before taking off and trying to accelerate. Otherwise, the whole thing will fly apart, and that's what some startups have suffered from.
Oh yes, that's true.
Yeah.
At which life cycle stage is it too late to fail when you cannot start over again?
Oh. Well, that's I love the analogy with the human life cycle. So you can start creating offspring when you're a teenager. So also for products and services, stage 6, when you're accelerating, it is possible to reinvest money in a new product and service, but not advised usually, because you need the money just to grow up. Like teenagers need their income just to pay for themselves. I advised against having kids around that age. But the next stage, stage 7, by then you're profitable. That is the optimal stage to start investing in younger products and services. Then you should, like Spotify does and Tesla does, they invest in newer ideas that start from scratch. By the time you get to stage 9, it's too late. Yeah. Because stage 7 and 8 are the profitable stages when you earn buckets full of money. That money you need to reinvest. By the time you get to stage 9, it is downhill. The product is just costing you money again, probably. Like senior citizens, the elderly, they will not generate new kids anymore by that time, usually. That's not advised either. Yeah, exactly.
We have time for one more question.
All
How
right.
do I actually fix my failed agile transformation?
All right, well, I hoped that my entire presentation would contribute to that, because the problem is that many coaches and consultants go in within a big framework or method and try to teach everyone this framework or method, but that's not going to work. You have to first identify which part of the business are in which life cycle stage. I think that's the first thing to realize. We have 2, 3, or 4 different business models, different products and services. We're going to treat them differently. Like identifying the family members. And then per family member, you should have an approach and say, well, this one is a kid. I'm going to have an entirely different program for the kids than I have for the adults and then I have for the senior citizens. And there could even be some parts of the company that are old, like in stage 9, you say, I'm not even going to touch them. I'm just going to love them for how old they became. And like, okay, you deserve thumbs up for surviving for so long. Thank you for helping this company be where they are. We're not even going to try and change them. I'm not even going to try and change my parents. Like, why bother? I will focus on the kids, because they will be the young generation. They will take over from me. So you should have that approach per business unit, I think, and not mandate a framework across everyone, because that's going to fail.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the audience for bringing all these great questions in. Many of them weren't asked, but you have the whole day to find the speakers and talk to them directly. And just with a little something, we just would like to say thank you for coming to Stretch.
Thank you so much.
This year. And also, sorry about the mic. That mic is going to be changed. So that had a little bit of problems, but they weren't.
I'm happy to be the guinea pig for testing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you. And I'm super happy to introduce our next speaker for today. She is a trainer and facilitator at Prezi. And she's also an experienced Search Inside Yourself trainer developed by Google. Please, Kinga Fekete, the stage is yours.
There are thousands of leaders and leadership profiles. There is the authentic leadership. There is the dictator leadership. There is the servant leadership. But most probably, the most interesting one for you will be the successful leader. So we will focus on this. What makes a successful leader? When Harvard Business School professor Bill George analyzed thousands of studies and conducted in-person interviews, he found that the best leadership profile doesn't exist. there is no such thing as the best leadership profile. Why? Because he found that the key to great leadership doesn't have so much to do with a set of specific personality traits. What he found is that the key to great leadership is emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is a skill. For you, as a leader, emotional intelligence is about gaining insight about yourself and others, and using this information to guide your thinking and actions. Essentially, it's about leading with insight. Emotional intelligence is pretty popular nowadays. I was also very happy to see that you responded to the poll, the Slido poll, with highlighting the two things most important in a leader, which was, I think, empathy and trust. So this is confirmed actually by Harvard Business Review's top 3 articles for 2019. These were the top 3 articles. One is about feedback. The other one is What Makes a Leader, which is actually about emotional intelligence. And the third one was about psychological safety. Tomorrow, you will hear a talk by Amber on feedback. And today, I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence and a bit of psychological safety as well. So you're covered, don't worry. The notion of emotional intelligence is not new. Even this article featured here by Dania Goldman, What Makes a Leader, was written 16 years ago. How comes that emotional intelligence is still in the top news? The reason behind this is that now we have a vast knowledge about what are the actual tools and practices which lead to building skills and which lead to measurable changes in the brain. So these tools and practices are part of my tool set as an HR business partner and facilitator. And among these, the Search Inside Yourself leadership training, which develops emotional intelligence, clearly stands out. I worked for years to get certified in this area, and so I can not only share this with the people I'm closely together working with, but also with a broader range of leaders, and now with you as well. So I brought you a couple of techniques from this training, which techniques build emotional intelligence, self-awareness, then social awareness, and then step-by-step builds emotional intelligence. So I will be guiding through on these steps. And actually these techniques are kind of building bridges between you and others. And the first pillar of this bridge is creating awareness by stepping out from the autopilot mode. So let's see this. Imagine that you'd like to get to a beautiful place. Somewhere warm, somewhere nice, the sun is shining, you are close to the beach, and your only task is to sit under a palm tree and sip your favorite drink. How does that sound? There are some smiley faces here and there. It sounds good in a February morning, right? So you decide to use your new Tesla Cybertruck, and you sit in the car, you turn on the self-driving mode, you turn on the autopilot mode, and then you relax and drift off to sleep. So you are traveling, and then at one point you just wake up, and you find yourself in a place where it's cold, it's dark, it's raining, there is wind, and you are far away from the beach. There must have been a malfunction, clearly. Would you be happy with your journey? Well, quite unlikely. Yet, this can happen to you on a normal Tuesday morning as well. And you don't even need to use your Tesla for it. You just need to run through your day without really consciously paying attention to what is happening. Essentially, being this autopilot mode. Malfunctions can always happen, like some stressful situation you didn't expect, a problem which just arose, close deadline, or your 6th must-attend meeting in a row, right? And if during these moments your autopilot mode is still on, you can miss some important moments. It can happen that you might not even notice that a direct report would like to share with you something important. Or it can happen that you totally miss when arriving home that your partner had a rough day and would have needed your help. If, during these moments, your autopilot mode is on, you might be irritable without even noticing it. Maybe not drinking, eating for the whole day, and not taking care of yourself. So living in this autopilot mode, it's quite easy to find yourself in this rough place. In 2011, at Harvard, there was a study led by Matt Killingsworth. And by the way, if you're interested about the specific references, just let me know. I have a huge list. So Matt Killingsworth and his team, they did a study, and they found that 46.9% of the time we are awake, we are not really paying attention to what we are actually doing. So 46.9%, our thoughts are somewhere else. Essentially, we are in this autopilot mode. The study also found that those who had the techniques to direct their thoughts back to the present moment, back to what they were doing, and really focusing on the actions, what happened at that moment, they experienced higher levels of happiness. So living in this autopilot mode, it's not only important for you to create awareness and be attentive, but also to create important connections. And we will see how. Well, we have to tell that there are specific advantages of this autopilot mode. So, for example, when the autopilot mode kicks in, the subconscious takes over the lead in the brain, and you can save some precious energy. For example, let's just take that you are writing. Let's say you are writing a handwritten note, all right? And you don't really need to think about anymore how to write the letter A, right? It comes automatically. And it's totally okay to think about something else then. Or when you're driving and not a Tesla, and you're an experienced driver, not like me, you have this as an experience that you don't need to think about how to switch gears or how to drive. It comes to you automatically, and you might think about something else what is important too. So the real question is this. Out of this 46.9% spent in this autopilot mode, like our thoughts, your thoughts is not on what you're actually doing. So out of this 46.9%, how much time is actually justified in this mode? What will you miss if you are in this mode and not paying attention, not cultivating awareness about what is happening around you, with you and others? It turns out that there's a lot to be missed. You can miss some important moments. You can miss some important experiences, which kind of never come back. So the real question is the next step. When the autopilot mode is unhelpful for you, how can you step out of it? So I brought you some techniques which actually helps you doing that, to step out of the autopilot mode, and it works like a turn-off button for this autopilot mode in the brain. And this technique is really about gathering your thoughts and directing them to the present moment, to what is happening here. It's a kind of a turn-off moment for the autopilot and the reset button for your awareness. And yes, this is focused on getting your thoughts back to what is happening now. So I brought you an activity for that. And first of all, to do this activity, I'd like to ask you to, if you have anything in your hands or in your lap, please put it down, okay? We will pay attention to our breath, I would say, for about 2 minutes. So it's not going to be a long activity. Don't worry about that. And what I'd like to ask you to do is to sit comfortably. The best is if you can sit with a straight back, with your hands gently relaxing on your lap. And the best is if both of your feet can touch the ground. So you can really sense into the sensations, what is happening in this present moment. So with that, just start observing how you're sensing the floor underneath your feet. You can move a little bit your feet just to sensing these sensations. How is it to move your feet on the ground? And start observing the points where you're sitting in the chair, how you can sense the chair underneath, observing as the chair holds you. If that would be comfortable, of course, you can close your eyes. It's totally fine to keep the eyes open. In that case, I invite you to rest your gaze somewhere in front of you, finding one point so you're not getting distracted. So with that, start observing the sounds around you. You may hear my voice. You may hear other sounds. Maybe the door, maybe the chairs. And with that, start observing your breathing. As you're breathing in and breathing out. Experimenting with observing a full cycle of breath as the air flows in and out of the body. You can even observe like small movements, maybe in the shoulders, as the shoulders gently move up and gently move down with each in-breath and out-breath. Observing a full cycle of breath, breathing in, breathing out. And let's close the activity with observing one more full cycle of breath as the air flows in and out of the body. So if your eyes were closed, now you can gently open them and maybe waking up the body a little bit. So just, moving your feet, gently moving your shoulders, your arms. Do whatever is comfortable for you at this moment. Maybe you can stretch yourself a little bit. Why not? Yeah, literally stretch, I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay. So with this small activity, what happened? Basically, you directed your thoughts to the present moment, to what is happening in the body, with the sensations, with your breathing, and with that, you created more awareness. In fact, the more you're doing this activity, and this builds in and becomes a skill, so the more you're directing your attention to the present moment, and it really becomes a skill, you will be able to create this space even in the midst of some triggers or stressful situations. In these cases, you can direct your attention to the present moment, and with that, creating awareness where you can consciously choose how you want to respond, and you will be not reacting by knee-jerk reactions or old patterns or unhelpful behaviors. So this is the power of this practice. So let's see what happens in the brain, all right? There were lots of research on what happens in the brain while you are doing the practices like this. There was a research by Antoine Lutz, neuroscientist, and his colleagues, and he found that those research participants who regularly practiced focused attention, meaning focusing their breath, their attention on the breath, how they're breathing in and breathing out, they could handle stress much more effectively. And besides that, when something challenging happened, there was a trigger, there was a situation which was challenging for them, they could let go of that experience much more easily. So essentially, they built emotional resilience. As simple as this activity can be, being aware, stepping out from the autopilot mode, and becoming aware of the moment of what is happening with you and then with others, this is your super skill as a leader. You can know hundreds of techniques about how to communicate, how to negotiate, how to give feedback, how to handle difficult conversations. If you are unable to step out from old behaviors which guide you, and you have some reactions which are not conscious, or later you might even regret them. So if you cannot step out from these, whatever technique you know or best practice won't work effectively. So I really encourage you to practice observing the present moment, stepping out from this autopilot mode, and creating awareness. And once you've done that, you actually build the first pillar. And once that awareness you became aware, now you can move a step further and become aware first about yourself. So I brought you another activity which is quite simple. In a matter of 3 breaths, you can create more insights about yourself. So 3 breaths, you step out from the autopilot mode and create insights about yourself. Let's see how does it look like. First of all, I will guide you through on this technique, okay? We'll let you know what is going to happen, and then we'll do it together, okay? So this one, the first breath, I will ask you to just observe the breath, basically stepping out from this autopilot mode. Observing as you're breathing in, observing as you're breathing out. With the second breath, I will be asking you to just relax the body. Sometimes it's helpful to focus on the face muscles or the shoulders, the muscles in the shoulders. So with the second breath, I will be inviting you to just relax the shoulders or the muscles on the forehead, the muscles around the eyes, the muscles around the jaw. And with the third breath, I will be asking you to ask yourself a question. And this question is this: what is most important now? What is most important now? Stepping out from this autopilot mode and asking yourself what is important can give you valuable insights about how you want to continue your day, what do you want to focus on, how do you want to be there as a leader. So I really encourage you using this, even in a meeting, in a one-on-one situation, everywhere where you would like to be conscious about how you want to be seen, be there, and how do you want to impact others. So let's do this together, okay? So 3 breaths. With the first breath, I invite you to just observe as the breath moves in and out. With the second breath, relax the body, shoulders, face. And with the third breath, ask yourself, what is most important now? And let a few answers arise in the mind. Okay, when you're ready and your eyes were closed, now you can open them. And basically, in this matter of 3 breaths, you can create this more insights about how you want to show up and what is important for you. Of course, after you stepped out from these old patterns and behaviors and created this awareness. And if you would like to up your game, and well, why not? I really suggest you to use these techniques to be aware of your emotions as well. So after relaxing the body, just asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? What is the need behind this emotion? there was a study done at Stanford by James Gross. And the study was about when a person in a group is upset and keeps their feelings bottled up, we, who we are around the person, our blood pressure will go up, even if we don't consciously recognize that this person is angry or upset. So being aware about your emotions as a leader is key, not only for your own well-being, but for others as well. And this leads us, so now you stepped out from the autopilot mode, created awareness, and with these 3 breath techniques, you became aware and built insight about yourself. Now it's time to get to the 3rd pillar, which is about building insights about others. These valuable insights will lead to connections, trust, and psychological safety. Let's see how, okay? So we know that psychological safety is the key of high-performing teams. One reference where we know this is Google's Project Aristotle, where they wanted to find out what is the secret recipe for effective teams. And it turned out that who is on the team matters less than how these people interact, communicate, share their ideas, and observe their own contributions. So who is on the team matters less than how these people interact, share their thoughts, ideas, and contributions. And what's the basis of it? It's psychological safety, an atmosphere where people feel ready, open, and to share their thoughts, give feedback, and show up and stand up if it's needed. So the big question is, how can you establish this psychological safety? What can you do? And it turns out that by cultivating insights about others, and these insights can build stronger connections, which connections can become trust-based connections, and this trust leads to psychological safety. So let's analyze the insights and the connection parts a little bit. So how can you cultivate these insights and how these insights will turn to connection? Connection and feeling connected to others is one of our basic needs as humans. Let's do an experiment. Ready? Take a look at these pictures and choose the one you feel most connected to. There are no good or bad answers. Choose the one you feel most connected to. Do you have your choice? Some nods, okay. You could have chosen any of the pictures above. It was your decision. And the point is exactly this. It was your decision. A decision which most of the times is unconscious and which shouldn't be based on race, gender, nationality, religion, or job title. However, many times it is. Your capacity to feel empathetic for, and connected to someone largely depends on what do you think, whether these people or others belong to the same group with you or not. And this small information can have a bigger impact on how you can connect with others than you might think. In 2015, there was a study by Dr. David Eagleman and his colleagues. He's a neuroscientist again. And they put 130 participants in a brain scanner. And here's what the participants saw. They saw 6 hands on the screen. There was one hand randomly picked. And then that hand was stabbed by a syringe needle. When you see something like this, it activates the pain matrix in your brain, which comes online either when you are feeling pain or when you see someone else in pain. And here's the trick. The researchers added a label to each hand: Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, and Scientologist. And their question was, would the participants care as much when they see someone from a different group getting stabbed on the hand? And it turns out that when someone from the same group was getting stabbed on the hand, there was a large neural response in the brain. But when someone from a different group was getting stabbed, the effect was essentially a flat line. Of course, there are individual differences, but the trend is clear. A single word label is enough to change your brain's preconscious response to another person in pain. In other words, how much you care about them. A single word label is enough to change how much you care about others. And Dr. Eagleman also found that even atheists cared more about other atheists' hand. So it's not really about religion. It's about which team you are on. And for every team you are on, there is at least one that you don't. And that division can be based on anything: race, gender, nationality, religion, job title, whether someone is an individual contributor or a manager. If you perceive these people to be different than you and belonging to a different group, your brain's subconscious response will be a less empathetic one. Not only in a brain scanner, in a meeting room as well. And this can have a negative effect on how you can connect with others. So thankfully, there's a way how to deal with this. Okay, so there is a way how to override this unconscious bias of the brain. First of all, by stepping out from this autopilot mode, creating this awareness, what you already practiced, the next step is to start practicing and building mental habits. Mental habits which can override this unconscious bias. And the mental habit is about seeing similarities. As easy as it might seem, triggering your brain to focus on similarities whenever you are connecting or meeting anyone else. Seeing similarities primes your brain for empathy and connection, and also naturally inclines you to better understand others. So it's essentially triggering the brain to see similarities. I brought you another technique for this. First of all, I'll tell you what is going to happen, and then we will practice it, okay? So whenever you are in a social situation with other people, I really invite you to practice this after the talk in the break. When you meet new people, then do this. I'll tell you what. So when you are in this social situation, just ask yourself, how are we similar to each other? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. So let's do this. Let's practice it now, all right? Choose a person you are working with, a colleague, a fellow manager, someone who you are working with, and just think about the person, okay? So think about the person. Let's step out from the autopilot mode and create some awareness with observing how you're breathing first. As you're breathing in, breathing out. As you're breathing in and breathing out. And ask yourself, how am I similar to this person? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? It can be that both of you were kids, both of you have a mother, both of you have friends, family, people who you feel connected to. And if you're ready and if your eyes were closed, now you can open them this was the activity. So in a matter of seconds, you can prime the brain to see similarities and kind of refocusing it to, for connection instead of differences. I really encourage you to build these mental habits. There is a reason they called habit. It will work, and they will work if you, when you can practice it more and more and really build it in. And that's the key. Just practice. So, for practice, I brought you another technique, last one, I promise. And this technique is kind of brings everything together. Stepping out from the autopilot mode, creating insights about yourself, creating insights about others. And this activity will be based on listening. I know. You might say that listening is too basic. We do that all the time. However, listening is your other super skill. Listening is how you will find the root cause of some serious issues and how you will understand what's behind some strong emotions when you're talking to one of your direct reports or when you're talking to fellow managers or really anyone. So we cannot highlight listening more. So with that, I'd like to ask you to find yourself a partner, someone who sits close to you, okay? Someone who is close because there will be listening. Once you have a partner, I'll tell you what's next, okay? So find a partner who you can work with. And if you don't have a partner, just raise your hand, all right? So you can find each other. All right, there are some, okay. So, and that's even up there, if you don't have a partner, just raise your hand and try to find others who have their hands raised, okay? Okay. I see that there are some pairs made, okay? So I'll guide you through what is going to happen. The first step is, so our intention for the whole practice will be to practice mindful listening. But before that, I want to do an experiment, and let's practice now unmindful listening. Meaning, let's do it a partial listening this time, all right? Just as an experiment, just to see it, okay? One of you will be a speaker, and one of you will be a listener. If you are a speaker, I will be asking you to talk about what do you love about your work, or what kind of manager, what is a leader you want to be, or anything else what is meaningful for you, okay? If you are a listener, this time, in this experiment part, please do partial listening. You know, when sometimes you check your phone, sometimes you look around, you know the drill, right? Okay, so for that, the person who will be the speaker will be the person with shorter hair. Okay, 1 minute starts now. All right, time out. Try directing your attention back to the stage. Okay, thank you. Was it familiar for you? Was it somewhat familiar? Well, somewhat, yes. We can naturally, of course, not just naturally, but we can easily fall into the trap of not really paying attention to others. So this is how the partial listening looks like. Now, let's do one listening, which is really about connection, stepping out from the autopilot mode, and building insights, all right? And for that, I like to ask you just to sit comfortably, start observing the breath by stepping out of the autopilot mode, observing as you're breathing in, breathing out, just relaxing a little bit, observing a full cycle of breath as the breath flows in and out. And ask yourself, how am I similar to this person I will be talking to? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. And when you're ready, and if your eyes were closed, you can gently open the eyes. And the setup is the same. There will be one speaker, one listener. The topics are the same. The big difference is this. If you are a listener now, listen as if you would offer your full attention as a gift. You might nod, you might give feedback, nonverbal feedback. You might even ask some questions. But if you are a listener, make sure these questions support the speaker and are not coming from your own curiosity. Okay? So for this, I suggest the speaker will stay the same, all right? And the listener will stay the same. You know the difference. 2 minutes starts now. Okay, so time out. This was 2 minutes. And now it's time to switch roles. So if you were a speaker, now you become a listener. We are not going to do the unmindful listening again. We've done that, okay? So that's fine. So if you were a speaker, now you become a listener. And if you were a listener, now you become a speaker. First, let's do stepping out from the autopilot mode again, all right? So just for a few seconds, observing your breath as the air flows in and out. Breathing in, breathing out. And just asking yourself, how am I similar to this person I'll be talking to? What is a fundamental human similarity which connects us? And let a few answers arise in the mind. Maybe you can find even new answers this time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. The topic is the same, okay? So now we switch roles. And the speaker, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes starts now. Okay. So that was the second round. And I invite you to, let's do a third round, okay? When you have a free flow conversation, how was this activity for you? How was it to be listened this way? How was it to listen this way? Did you notice any differences, any changes, or just add any reflections? 2 minutes starts now. Okay. So now let's slowly wrap up the discussions, bring the conversation to an end. And I really invite you to maybe continue these conversations during the break. You have the opportunity to do that. But before we do so, I'm very much interested who noticed a difference between the partial listening and the mindful listening. Any difference noticed? Yes, there are some hands in the air. Okay, very well. Who noticed a difference that stepping out from the autopilot mode, finding similarities between you and the other person had a positive impact on the conversation? Okay. All right, great. So stepping out from this autopilot mode, you could experience it, and also how to connect with others. The real power of stepping out from this autopilot mode and creating awareness is really in letting go of some unhelpful behaviors and patterns which might make you react instead of consciously responding. So, and with that, you can create stronger connections, trust, and psychological safety. So I really encourage you to practice this. So stop and observe, notice and reflect, and lead with insight. Thank you so much.
Well, Kinga, I feel very relaxed, very present. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're a little short on time, but let's do one question at least. What have we got on top? How does one realize they're in autopilot mode?
That's a very good question. So at first, if you are used to this autopilot mode, you might realize that you are tired and don't know why, that you are stressed, you don't have energy, you cannot focus. That's one very important way how to find this, that you cannot focus on one thing. And, or you might not, some others tell you that, did you notice this and that when he said this and this? And you said, I have no idea what you are talking about. So when you're clearly missing some examples and opportunities, and others can guide your attention to observe that, that can be.
Okay, and we'll do one more. We've got, how does one realize, no, guys, do you think being mindful is always good and needed?
I see this as a tool. So I don't think, as also Jürgen mentioned before, that there is no one super, I think he mentioned about coaches, that everyone wants to say that there is just one thing what is super great. I really believe that being mindful has to be part of your tool set. And being mindful is about being aware of yourself and others, and that's kind of a tool what you can use a lot. So I believe that, yes, it's important to be mindful most of the times. So I really invite you to practice this more and more.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We have here
thank you so
something
much.
to remind
Thank
you.
Thank you.
So we're going to have a short break. It's going to be 15 minutes instead of 20 because we are a little behind. And for those of you whose questions did not get answered, please find Kinga. She's going to be here. She wants to talk to you. And please do rate the sessions on Slido. It's really, really helpful for the speakers. We'll meet back here at 12.
Todo mundo bamba, the alma brasileira, drinking coffee with a capoeira, from New York to Pará, Atlanta to Paraná, São Paulo, Tocantins, Miami, and the in-between. Quer saber de onde sou? Brasileira, meu amor, Brasil. Saber de onde sou, brasileira, meu amor, Brasil. A tambourine in the rhythm of samba, oh, in the heat of December, oh, Brazil is where I go. I think I've got a case of Brazilian soul. I'll always remember, oh, in the heat of December, when we let our hearts grow close. Soul, I'll always remember, oh, in the heat of December, when we let our hearts grow close.
was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah, I was in that rave. I was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah, I was in that rave. I was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah, I was in that rave. I was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah, I was in that rave. Put the hands up. I was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah. I was in that rave. I was on a boat in Paris on a wave. Yeah. I was in that rave.
And no links gonna hunt me down, but Swift told them to leave.
Also on the website welcome page. Channel, if you want to find this from all the notifications, I just encourage you to sign up for. So please welcome to the stage Elisa Kalucha. She is an engineering manager at Zendesk. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Directly with this story. It's in Florida when a math teacher decides to run an experiment. She asks her class to put their smartphone on the corner of their made a post on their Facebook page. Thousands of